Welcome to Arrays Part 2. In this lesson we're going to examine one-dimensional arrays in more detail and demonstrate how you can call functions and subroutines that manipulate one-dimensional arrays. I've set up a programming canvas for us here called Arrays Part 2, and if you recall from our previous lesson, we wrote a sort routine. Let me show you how you can reference a previous program that you wrote in a convenient way when you're writing a new program. To do that, you go to the File menu and you select Open Program Work window, and you open the previous program by pressing Open Program 1, 2, or 3. There are 3 slots here. I'm using slot 1 and I've already loaded it. And so here we have the sort routine we wrote before. So we're going to use that in a subroutine. So we want to write a subroutine that does a sort now. So how do we do that? Well, we start by saying sub for subroutine. Let's call it sort. And in the parameter list, we want to reference the array that we're going to sort. Let's call that array B1 and reference it as a double. We don't need to indicate the size. And in fact, you can indicate the size. You need to be able to receive an array of any size and manipulate it. Let's return in the subroutine the array that we sorted. Because we want to manipulate that, we're going to put byref in front, which indicates that we're going to work on a pointer to that array rather than a new array that we recreate inside the subroutine. Now, let's take our sorting routine and just drop it right inside the subroutine. It's not going to work because it's using the wrong variable name, but that's okay, we can change that. And then we add n sub. Now, here we have a subroutine, but there are a number of problems with it. For example, we have the variables I and j that are being used here, and those are local variables, so we have to declare them. So we want I, j, and n as integer. We also need to find out what the size of the array is that was passed. So we use the statement ubound, which stands for upper bound, and we pass the array to it. So now we know what the size of that array is, and all that is left for us to do is to make a replacement for A1 with B1. There's an easy way to do that. We simply go up to our edit menu and select replace. We want to replace all instances of A1 with B1. So we find and replace all occurrences, and we've got it. Okay, so now we have our program ready to go. So let's now go back to our old program and copy it. But use our sort routine that we just wrote in our subroutine. So we'll print that out, and we'll also transfer from here the print statement that we wrote before, put it down here. So now what we need to do is call our subroutine. How do we do that? Well, it's very easy. We simply type sort. We put our old array in there, and we're done. So let's see if that works. Let's close this and press run. Look at that. It works. Now, if we wanted this to sort in the opposite direction, I'll remind you that all we need to do is change that greater than to less than, and we sort in the opposite direction. Great. Okay. But how about we do this with a function? And we do something clever. We create a function that will not only sort, but will put the results into a new array that is passed back to the main program. Well, let's see how to approach that. We'll create a function sort, but we need to give it a different name. You can't have a function and a subroutine with the same name. So we will pass to it the array A1, for example. We can call it anything. Let's call it C1 just to demonstrate that these are local variables. And we will return a sorted array. And how do we indicate that? Well, we simply type the return statement with a parentheses. That parentheses means we are returning a one-dimensional array. And just for those of you who are wondering, well, how do you do a two-dimensional array? You would simply add a comma here. We'll do that next time. Okay, so we have our sort routine, but we're returning a different array, so we need to create a new array. So let's call it D. Let's also declare the necessary integers. Part of object-oriented programming is never to use variables that are global inside a function or a subroutine. Always work with variables that are either passed as parameters or locally declared. We need to find out the size of our passed array. So that is now placed in n, the variable n. We now want to redim D1 so it fits. So the approach we're going to take first is to transfer our old C array into the D array. That's done. Now all we have to do is sort the D array. We can just copy our sort routine directly into here, but now we have to change all the B's to D's. And we're done. So now we're going to return this D array and close out the function. So now instead of using sort, we're going to transfer our new array into a newly created array, which we call G1. So we type G1 equals sort to A1. Notice that I don't need to include information here on the size of the array that we're passing, nor do I need to include these parens. The compiler can figure that out because we're calling a function here which has declared this parameter to be an array, so we just need to make sure we feed it an array. Okay, so now let's print out the result of G1 and see if we have in fact sorted our array, and we get an error. Now, let's take a look at that error. It says syntax error. Well, what doesn't it like? We've declared C1 as double, and we've said return. But that's not where we return it. We need to declare what the type is. That is a very common error. I just made it. People do it all the time. What you need to declare here is the type. And so this function does a sort and returns the result as a double one-dimensional array. Let's try it again. It works. Now, of course, we have the same capability. We can go into this function and change it so it sorts in the opposite direction. Notice that we're getting a random array here, and so every time we press the run, we get a different set of values, but we're sorting them each time. So that ends our lesson. I hope it's been helpful. Enjoy your programming. See you next time.